What is animal testing? According to the Cruelty-Free International Organization, animal testing is a scientific experiment or test which a living animal is forced to undergo that can cause them pain, suffering, distress, or lasting harm. While attending University of River Falls this last semester, I was able to tour some of these facilities and see some of the living conditions of their animals. The touring that we did was on facilities that were being toured by the USDA, so their animals were in relatively good living conditions and were provided more than average care, so they were able to watch movies while they were in their cages, and they were allowed out of their cages every once in a while. But nonetheless, these animals were living in cages for a large majority of their life, which I didn't personally think was fair to them. So in this speech, we are going to be discussing some of the big problems and some possible solutions that I found while touring these facilities. Problems with animal testing that I found. So a lot of the laws that are set into place to protect our animals from the farm to our home do not apply to the animals that live in these facilities because these facilities are federally owned, so they are not able to be inspected by the USDA. So they don't have to follow these laws or make sure that they're following these USDA regulations that are set in place to protect the animal's welfare. According to adgf.org, which is a website that does research into these facilities, found that 100 million animals are exploited in research and consumer product testing. 95% of these animals are not protected by any of these laws, which is kind of sad because these laws were set into place to protect these animals, and they're not able to because of a loophole that was set into these laws. Another problem is that there are a lot of non-animal testing methods that are not being used as frequently as I think that they should be used. PETA, which is a big organization that is into animal welfare, found that not only are these non-animal testing methods more humane for the animals that live in these facilities, they also have the potential to be cheaper, to be faster, and more relevant to humans because some of these tests that the animals are being used on don't really even matter because they are not humans. So a lot of the testing that they're being used for, you have to test on humans anyways. So it'd be easier and better for the animals if they just use these non-animal testing methods more often. And then there's a lot of unnecessary suffering that I found in animals, and I was not aware of this before I started to research it. According to the animalequality.net, I found a list of some of the things that we subject our animals to in animal testing facilities, which is quite shocking. We inject them with viruses, alter their DNA, impregnate, and then kill the mothers so that we are able to perform studies on the fetus. We submit them to starvation or electric shock to test their resilience. We burn them alive, apply irritant to their eyes and skin, block their glands, and force inhale of toxic substances, provoke paralysis, and submit them to radiation, which are some shocking. I thought there were some shocking things that we did to animals. Obviously, they have the reasons that they are doing these tests, but these tests I think are quite cruel, and I don't think we should be submitting an animal to this because obviously they are suffering from this and they are going to feel at least some pain. Okay, now that we know some of the larger problems involved with the animal testing facilities, we can start to discuss some of the possible solutions to these problems. So, for the laws that don't apply, we could possibly pass some more laws that do apply to these testing facilities. Or we could make the current laws that we have in place for our other animals apply to these animal testing facilities. So we could allow the USDA to inspect these federal industries, and we would need to increase the USDA inspectors numbers because the USDA inspectors are at very low, so they're not able to inspect the facilities that they already have to inspect. So we would have to increase their numbers so that they would be able to accurately tour these facilities and make sure that these animals are living in good quality conditions. And then one of the solutions I found for non-animal testing methods is we could pass some laws that have already been passed by other countries, not allowing animal testing on things that are not required by laws. So only doing animal testing when absolutely necessary, when it is required by law that it has to be tested on an animal before it can be used on humans. And then to solve some of the more unnecessary suffering, we could pass some more laws that make more like simple testings to be done and not these making them paralyzing the animals or giving them very irritating skin irritants in their eyes or some other things. And then we could do more evaluations in these facilities and regulate them more effectively. In conclusion, animal testing facilities don't have enough concern for their animals' well-being, and protection agencies are not doing anything to change these conditions for these animals, which is quite sad. So a lot of you said that you do have a pet, and I'm assuming that, or I'm hoping that, as I did, you are kind of hearing this and thinking of your own pet, as I did when I was touring these facilities, and I felt bad for them because I know that I wouldn't want my animals living in these types of conditions because the animal welfare laws don't apply and these tests are used unnecessarily, which is just unnecessary suffering for these poor animals. But yeah, like I said, sadly not a lot is being done to ensure their safety and their well-being in these facilities, and there's not a lot that is in looks of changing this. So it's likely that it's going to continue, which is not okay because these animals didn't ask to be put in these facilities and they are suffering for our gain only. I hope you take this into consideration and, like I said, think of your own animals when you are talked to about this or in a class where we were discussing animal testing and speak up on the well-being of their animals because they have feelings, they feel pain, same as we do. And I, quite frankly, don't think they deserve what they are being treated like.